Well, hey, everybody, it's your virtual cruise host, Jason Venner here. Thanks for tuning in. This is All Access Pass from Home. And broken record, I'm excited to be sitting with another absolutely world-class group, a group that the malt shoppers know so well, not only from back in the day, but from recent cruises, and a group we were looking so forward to having on the 2020 Malt Shop. But good news, they are going to be on the 2021 Malt Shop. The Vogues, I have Royce and I have Troy. Gentlemen, thank you for taking a little bit of time to be here. Appreciate it. Royce, I'll start with you, sir. How you doing? How's
Great.
How you feeling through all this shenanigans we're dealing with?
Well, I've just been taking advantage of the time. Years ago, people said, "Why don't you retire?" And I said, "Why would I retire? I'm traveling around the world. I'm having the time of my life." And all of a sudden, everything grinds to a halt last March. And I said to myself, is this what retirement feels like? I want to go back on the road. I'm a strange person. I've been touring on and off for the better part of 52 years. I started in 1967, and I took 10 years off in the 80s to go back to college to get my degrees. I had young children, so, I wanted to stay home with the kids. And then when the 90s came along and the Vogues invited me to come along, as a tenor singer, it put me back on the road, just full-fledged touring, and I haven't stopped since. It's just been wonderful. But I don't want to retire. I'm not ready for that. I'm really
Even a forced retirement like this.
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad you're keeping your spirits up and staying busy. This is a time that's easy for any of us, I feel like, to get down. A lot of people are dealing with some hard times here, and
yes,
and there's no one gets to corner the market on having a hard time, but the entertainment industry sure is having a rough go of it, obviously, when almost all of us are based on some level of live entertainment. And Troy, I'll actually aim this at you. It's when's the last time you guys performed together as a group? When was the last time the Vogues was on stage?
March 7th at the Scottish Rite Theater in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania.
March 7th.
And we were that night. Go ahead.
No, go.
I was going to say that night, people were talking backstage about this pandemic and how's this going to affect us. And, it was kind of like, it won't affect us, really, is kind of the way I felt. And I remember that night, there was multiple acts on the show, and a couple of the acts were a little bit hesitant. You'd go up like you always do to shake hands with somebody.
Yeah.
A couple of the guys were like, do one of these things. Yeah. And I thought, wow, really? And then the whole country shut down like a week later. That was it. So it's that's the last gig.
It's been a crazy whirlwind. It's you don't, and at the time, right? And I'm sure this is obviously, I'm preaching to the choir here. Like you said, you got March 7th, you guys are on stage and people are kind of whispering about it. And because we were just coming off a cruise about to go on. We had one last cruise planned for our season, our Flower Power cruise. And, there'd been whispers of it, but everyone's kind of like, well, I'm sure it's okay. And, that's perfect. And then all of a sudden, just boom, 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 like all the dominoes fell all at once. And everyone's like, wait, what? It's such a, as we were joking about a little bit there, Royce, it's a forced retirement all of a sudden. Like everyone's kind of, whether you like it or not, if you're in the entertainment business, everyone's on sabbatical or hiatus or whatever we want to call it right now. Well, before we get too far down that road, Troy, I'd love to ask you a kindness here. You joined the group with your dad. Would you tell us a little history of the Vogues and your dad and kind of walk us through the past a bit?
Well, I mean, where do you want me to start? I mean, way back when it started?
Wherever you feel most comfortable, wherever you feel people should know and understand the Vogues. You tell me.
Well, it all started in Turtle Creek, Pennsylvania in 1965. And it's still going now. That's the very abridged version. But I started in 2000. My dad had been with the group previously and sang with Royce in one of those several lineups, different incarnations of the group, if you will. And so I used to see Royce, and we joke about this on stage. I used to go watch him when I was a kid. And I say that on stage, and people think I'm joking that I'm poking fun at his age. But the truth is, I used to go watch them when I was a kid. And, and I always, I wanted to be in the group. It's like when you want to do something, when you're passionate about something, you're sitting out in the audience. I'm like, I want to be in that group, but I never dreamed that I'd get to be in that group. And then fast forward to the year 2000, Royce at that time was not in the group. There's different guys singing tenor, and the position came open as the middle vocalist. If my dad sang on the bottom, there was a tenor, or there is a tenor, and then the middle position came open. And he was, in fact, he asked Royce. I don't remember what group you were with at the time, Royce, but my dad came to you and said, "Why don't you come back? You can sing tenor. The other guy will go to the lead," whatever the case was. And you were happy doing what you were doing. So I was not the first choice. But because I was only 24 at the time. So my dad thought I didn't really fit, the look of the group. But
fair enough.
Yeah. So, but I still had to audition. That's important. I don't want anybody to think that I just skated in because my dad was the boss. I mean, I auditioned. I had to do the gig because the sound has to be there. You can't just go up and wing it.
Yeah.
So, and then, in 2000, I went on the road with them. My dad was certainly a grizzled old veteran. Everybody was. I was the young, I was 24 years old. And then my dad got sick, unfortunately, passed away 2010. But, I've kept doing it because it's all I really love to do, is to sing and to play music. I feel like I'm still close to him, though. It keeps me.
That's cool.
I feel like he's there. It's a relationship that he and I can still have, and he's not with us anymore. If you know what I mean.
Absolutely, Royce. What's it like for you having sung with Troy's father and now singing with Troy? Do you see the similar thing from the opposite end that he sees from his side of it?
Well, as he says, talking about making the story that he watched me sing when he was young, now he's on stage basically in the position that his father held.
Yeah. And
he is his dad. When I started with the Vogues, his father was the age Troy is now, or even slightly younger. We were just young guys when we started working together. And but Troy's sense of humor and his timing and the things that he brings to the stage are his father almost reincarnate. It's incredible to do. And so we have a similar relationship on the stage performance that I had with his dad.
That's a wonderful compliment. I assume, unless he didn't like his father, but it sounds like a wonderful compliment. Well, you guys obviously have a great relationship, and I would assume to be part of a group, that relationship is vital.
Oh yeah.
You can't share the stage and green rooms and the travel and all the tours and the things. Talk a little bit about building, for the sake of sounding rude, as the Malt Shop music goes on in age, we haven't, with all due respect to you and your father, we've lost a lot of the original singers, original members of a lot of the groups. And it's, to have a true group that was the same group it was in 1950 something is not really existent now. Most it's one person that was there and then a couple that weren't, et cetera, et cetera. But you're still building a group of folks into a band or, a group of artists that has to maintain the sound that the originals did, because that's what people remember and that's what people fell in love with. So Troy, I ask you, tell us a little bit about building the Vogues in a way now, today, the Vogues you would see today, to honor the original members in the original group.
Well, as far as maintaining the sound, I mean, that is critical, especially with the Vogues. I mean, it was especially the big ballads, the later hits with the very soft unison verses. And then when you get to the chorus, the big powerful harmonies. I mean, it's important. You have to duplicate the sound. It has to sound, and it might seem simple, unison vocals. I mean, come on, that's a piece of cake. You do that in music class when you're in first grade. But there's an art to it where everybody has to sound the same, start at the same time. There are dynamics. You come down, you come back up, stop at the same time. There's something to it. So yes, it's critical. It sounds like the records, or else you won't get any work. If you don't sound like the group you're in, you probably won't work very long.
And it's completely fair, right? Because that fit, you know, and I've been able to talk about this with a lot of artists. And one of the questions I ask to these artists is, you know, what is it about the sound of the 50s and 60s that resonates so strongly that the music is still popular? And not just here and there. There's a ton of huge hits from that era that are still huge hits today. I mean, I was just talking to Jay Siegel and Lion Sleeps Tonight. You know, I mean, you could, you know, it's still a massive hit. It's the Lion King re-releases and it goes back to #1. And, you know, you can't go anywhere in the world without finding someone that knows the twist by Chubby Checker, you know, and on and on and on and on, right? All of you guys, all the Vogues, everybody has a song or a couple of songs like that. So I ask you the same, you know, somewhat rhetorical question. And Royce, I'll start with you. What is it about the music from that era that makes it special? Why do people love it the way they do?
I think the era was an era that was still fun. People were still enjoying life coming out of the 50s and into the 60s. The vocal music itself was a bit of a carryover from some of the doo-wop and the big band and the vocal groups. We've had the privilege, of course, of being inducted into the Vocal Group Hall of Fame because it was that vocal music that kind of propelled things. It did take a twist when the rockabilly and the rock and roll came in and they started going more solo driven. But the group harmonies, and especially on the ballads, seems to resonate with people who were romantic and having moments to remember, for example, was a theme for how many proms back in that day. And the Vogues didn't have it the first time around, but when we brought it back, I think it even came back stronger the second time around when the Vogues had the hit with it. And it's that kind of memory that sticks in the minds of our fans. And I think young people now are gravitating back toward that sound because they're looking for something that's got some substance to it and has a good, strong history. Would you concur, Mr. Elich?
Would you concur? Well, and actually, Troy, I'll aim this at you a little differently. You know, your dad is in the group. You're a young man. You're obviously talented and musical. Why want to be in a 50s based group? Why not go your own direct? What is it about the Vogue sound? I mean, is it just the image of the Vogues, or was there something special that made you, who could have done anything musically, want to do that?
First of all, the Vogues were the 60s, buddy.
Well,
so
50s, 60s, Malt Shop Cruise, baby. Malt Shop Cruise,
yeah.
50s, 60s.
Okay, so, you know, I was in a band in high school. It was a hair band. You know, we played, you know, Motley Crue and Poison and Bon Jovi, and nobody wanted to pay for that. So it was, you know, it was like, well, I can get paid playing the 50s and 60s and 70s stuff. So that seemed like a lot better option. You know,
fair enough. Yeah.
Pay as opposed to no pay was the way I decided to go.
The check clears.
Yeah,
yeah, that certainly helps. So Troy, I'll stay with you. When you guys go out on stage now, obviously you're walking out, and you specifically, Troy, you know, you guys are walking out. You are the Vogues, and you're walking out, and there's this amazing fandom for you specifically, not just the era, you know, but the Vogues have a wonderful following. We see that every time you're on the Malt Shop Cruise. That has to be, you know, especially knowing your dad was there for the time he was, that has to kind of elicit some emotion to see people fall in love that strongly with the group and the songs and you guys.
Yeah, it's great. It's a rush. You don't appreciate it until you're not doing it. Yeah. I mean, I shouldn't say that. Of course I appreciate it. You appreciate it way more when you haven't done it in 9 months. But when you sing those songs and you look out and sometimes people are singing along, or maybe the wife puts her arm, you know, around her husband and leans into him, you know, or sometimes they cry, you know, and they'll come after the show and they'll tell you that was our wedding song, or that was our prom, you know, our prom theme or our prom dance. Man, that took us back. That means something. You've touched somebody deeply, and you know it takes you back to a happier time. So to be able to do that for people, you know, it means a lot, and it feels great to see people smiling. No, very rarely do people get angry when we sing. You know, that music music of the 60s wasn't intended to make people angry. Well, the later 60s it was, but not that stuff. It's happy music.
It really is. And Royce, you know, it's got to be kind of fun then to go on like the Malt Shop Cruise, for instance,
Yes.
where first 7 days you've got a built-in fandom. You know, you've got
Yes.
for 7 days you have 2,000 people that love this music passionately, and probably the way you do to a certain extent. And some of them, dare I say, more than you know,
Yes.
because it's the soundtrack of their lives, and they've been deeply involved with certain artists and groups for 40, 50, 60 years in some cases. What's it like going out there and seeing all the fans and how they react, and just the cruise in general? What's the feeling for you guys?
Well, I'll give you a quick example of the
Please.
day that we're taping this. I know this will be released at
A little later.
at a future time, but I still, I started out in gospel music, and so I still have one finger in gospel music. And actually, this is a Sunday that we're recording this, and this morning I sang for a church group that was still privileged to meet with social distancing and masks and the whole thing. I took my mask off to sing, however.
You're allowed.
But I had a man approach me when the morning service was over, and he said, "I was in Vietnam when the Vogues released 5 O'Clock World and the other great hits that you did in that time frame." He says it was Armed Forces Radio and groups like the Vogues that helped me get through, because I wanted to come home to my own 5 O'Clock World and that long-haired girl who was waiting for me.
That's deep.
That's yeah.
And so now here we are on the cruise, with multiplied fans, much more than what I encountered this morning in that small church, with similar stories of how these songs had affected them back in that time, and the memories that are refreshed when we are there. And yes, the built-in audience, like I say, walking down the corridor of the cruise ship, or sitting in cafeteria having coffee, or even dining, and to have fans say, "You're one of the Vogues," and they want to talk. And of course, I'm going to do my level best to give them that time.
That's fantastic. And Troy, as someone that isn't from that era, it's got to be pretty cool for you as well, because I know it is for me. I'm just north of 40 personally, and so I obviously wasn't there, but it's amazing to me. It's inspiring to me to go out in front of the Malt Shop crowd and see not only the artists loving it as much as they do, but the fans loving the artists, and watching the artists be fans of other artists. As a younger man, I appreciate it immensely. Does it strike similar emotion in you? I would assume it's.
Yeah, I mean, I grew up, listening to the radio, of course, like anybody did, and we listened to a lot of oldies radio around here. And I would hear, like you mentioned, Jay Siegel earlier. Yeah. How many times did I hear "The Lion Sleeps Tonight"? And then I'm working with him regularly. I said to him one of the last times I saw him, I said, "Your song, everybody in the world, not just like everybody in New Jersey or everybody in the eastern part of the country, everyone in the world knows that song." And he sang that's his lead voice at the beginning, the very famous part at the beginning. It's amazing. Things like that. Or Chuck Negron from Three Dog Night, who we were going to tour with next year, and we toured with, or we should have toured with this summer. But who in the world doesn't know Jeremiah Was a Bullfrog? And I'm like, there's the guy that sang that. Or Dion. When we did the last Malt Shop, Dion was there. The Beach Boys were there, and I'm like, California Girls, The Wanderer, Run Around Sue, Kokomo. It's like, holy crap! All these guys, they sang all these songs, and here they are. We're right here. We're in the buffet line together, or whatever.
You are literally talking about so I have a quote that I say all the time, and I'm sure someone said it before me, but I always say there's nothing like hearing the person sing the song that sang the song.
Yeah. Right? That's
there's
nice.
Nothing like hearing the person sing the song that did the song, Jay Siegel or whoever it is up there performing, and you're just like this is history.
Yeah, it sure is.
But and I extend that. It's something to be said for the guy that sang it, or the person that sang it, singing it. I extend that though to the groups. I mean, the Vogues are obviously a huge part of these people's musical history. It's a huge part of their lives. Your songs, are are magical to people, and
Thank God.
Right, that's amazing. That's
Yeah.
that's something that isn't necessarily every day nowadays.
Right.
It's pretty neat to see. So forgive me, I'm going to jump ahead a little bit, and let's talk a little bit about what the Vogues are doing today. Obviously, we've had what'd you say, since March, so we've had some hiatus. What's next? Do we have any fingers crossed dates coming up, or?
Well, we hope. I mean, you have agents call and they say, well, I just had a lady call recently with a possibility for a Fort Wayne, Indiana in February. Well, guess what? We're open, but so is everybody else.
Yeah, aren't we
But,
all?
yeah, so I'm available, but will we be allowed to do gigs yet in February? I don't know. So that's it. I mean, we started to work on an album back in, I don't even know when we started, like February, right before the pandemic. And we were going to have it ready for Malt Shop, plus before we were supposed to do this past summer. And then we kind of had to put that on hold. So that's in the can right now. And it's unfinished, I really, and the thing is, I can't remember kind of where we even left off. We're going to have to like revisit that, Royce, because I kind of don't really remember where we were on a lot of that, and pick that up again once we can. But yeah, that's it, man. Just sitting around looking at, each day goes by and you think, man, I can't tell you how much I'd like to go out and do gigs again. All the BS that goes with it, the 10 hours, sometimes in a van or you're sitting in an airport for hours and hours. I don't even care anymore. I would welcome a 6-hour delay in Newark or something. I don't even care. I want one. It'd be great.
It's a funny thing. I couldn't agree more. I'm typically, my career is very live entertainment based as well. It's the same thing. It's like, I'll take a 2 stop plane trip with 2 layovers and a 3-hour. I'll do a red eye. I'll do it. I won't complain.
No sleep. Yeah, I don't care. Let's do it.
Let's do it. Yeah. Oh man. Well, gentlemen, I really appreciate you taking the time. Truly. Before I let you go, Royce, I'll start with you. Any message for the Malt Shop and/or the Vogues fans out there checking us out? What do you got to say to people?
Well, we're on Facebook. Troy's on Twitter. We have the Vogues.com website. Find us, look for us. We're on the web. We can be communicated with. I look forward to that. Certainly looking forward to coming back and doing great live music again and getting a chance to reconnect with the fans. And we hope the big tour takes place next summer. We're looking forward to the cruise. I was really looking forward to this cruise because, when you're retired, you go on
have
cruises,
right? You gotta have things to look forward to. Yeah.
And I was going to have the best of both worlds. I was not only going to go on the cruise, I'd get to sing on that cruise. Yes.
Well, you're slightly delayed, but you're going to be there. 2021, we're going to have you guys on it. And running below right now, we'll have all of the links to your social media and the different ways for folks to get a hold of you. We'll run those all below, so you can click on those down there, my friends. And Troy, take us home. Any message for the Vogues fans, the Malt Shop Memories fans, before we get out of here?
I think once this whole thing, all the craziness ends, I think that people are we're gonna embrace this music business and entertainment business even more because we haven't had it. And I think it's really going to be it's like we're all going to want to hug each other, just like forget the show. We're going to hug for an hour with all the audience members. Then we'll do the gig. I mean, really, I think it's going to be great to get back out there. I think we all miss each other, even the people that we don't know each other, but we miss each other. And I can't wait to see a live audience. I can't wait to try to fit into my Vogue clothes because I've been doing some eating during the pandemic. That's going to be another challenge. I told my wife the other day, I'm like, I don't think I could fit in stage clothes right now.
You got to get in those stage suits, bro. You got to get in those stage clothes.
I want to try. I want that opportunity to try to squeeze into my clothes. Yeah, that's great. I can't
do it a perfect way. I love that. Well, listen, gentlemen, I truly appreciate you guys taking the time. And I know I speak on behalf of the Malt Shop fans when I say can't wait to see you guys in 21, get you back on stage on the cruise. To all our guests out there, as always, be smart, be safe, be kind to one another, be compassionate, and we'll see you again very, very soon. One more time, here we are with the Vogues.